Welcome everyone. Welcome to the second episode where I have a special guest today where we are talking on the importance of sleep for our superior health. I'm going to introduce my dear guest in just a minute, but before that, let me tell you a little bit about why we are doing this. So, as you know, my name is Neeti, and I'm the founder of Back to Basics Functional Nutrition here in Irving. And the reason while we are doing this live interview series is because most of us, we grew up in a conventional medicine world, surrounded by conventional medicine, where where we take a pill for our symptoms, where we line up certain pharmacies, and yes, it works well. But with so many chronic diseases out there, be it obesity, diabetes, chronic heart diseases, and I wanted to have a word out there for preventative care, for functional medicine, for integrative medicine, such that you guys know that there are options out there which you might not have thought for. And so our purpose today, along with Brittany today, is to get you exposed to the other modes of treatment and options that is out there. So that is the intent. And so if you are catching us live, you can type in your questions in the chat box, and I promise we'll get to that at the end of our conversation. And if you are catching this as a later on, please type replay in the comment section. That will really help bring the platform algorithm up, and it will help us get the message out there to all of our listeners. So let me introduce you to my dear guest today and a friend of mine. We have with us Dr. Brittany Frantz, who is a founder of a caring practice, Healthcare at the Grove, here in Coppell, Texas, where she practices superior primary care as a passionate nurse practitioner. She has committed herself to treating the whole person with her preventative care. So without further ado, let me have Brittany talk a little bit more about her journey, how she practices, and also what motivated you to become a primary care practitioner. We are curious, Brittany.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nidhi, and thank you so much for having me here today. It's so much fun to always talk to you about these topics, about how we can help people overall understand their bodies more to gain better health. So as Nidhi was saying, myself and my partner, Margaret Kusek, we founded Healthcare at the Grove almost about a year ago, which is crazy. Time has flown.
Mm-hmm.
Megan and I's mission when founding this was to create a place that really did care for the whole person. And we wanted to make it in a model that we felt like actually had quality care behind it, and we had time with our patients to go through the issues that actually do matter. My background, I was inpatient. I worked CVICU for a number of years, primarily with heart failure and heart transplant patients. So very, very sick people. Some, were situations that their lifestyle did lead to that. Some were not. And I realized I loved the connections that I made with those patients because I did have them for a very significant amount of time. And I loved the connections with the families, and I loved helping them to recover and really regain their life again. So fast forward to school, where I was dead set on going right back into that once I finished my doctorate program. And then I had a dear friend and a physician who I worked with who I was explaining this to, and he told me, well, Brittany, wouldn't you really like to do all those things before those people got so sick? And it was the light bulb and the kind of charge that I think really did change my perspective in terms of how I care for my patients, and trying to have more of the difficult conversations up front to prevent disease versus just treat disease processes. I also think nursing gives a very interesting perspective also at care of the whole person, and really looking at all of the integrative factors that lead into people's health in the situation that they're in. So have been working definitely with a preventative functional mindset, which is a far cry from where I was, but I think that those experiences really did lead me to this point. I try and spend a little bit of that extra time and have the difficult conversations in terms of what I think impacts people's health. And I do think sleep is one of the most important ones. And I think that if addressed, can lead to much better situations much more quickly than people anticipate. My focus now is primarily, my passion is metabolic syndrome, obesity medicine, trying to help people battle, what they're dealing with in terms of how metabolic syndrome impacts the rest of their life. And sleep is a big part of that.
Awesome. Great. So you want to help them before they get sick. I just
Yeah.
love that idea, because that is where few pieces are missing in our healthcare, where we go to the doctor only after we getting diagnosis, or
Right.
after only when we are extremely sick. So I love that idea. And what you have found missing, I also love that what you found missing in the healthcare is how you founded your practice. So that's why the quality care is what we have with you. So I'm so grateful that we have you in the Irving Coppell community, such that everyone can find you and get their health better.
Well, you as well. You and I get along because we both agree food is a huge piece of that.
Yes, thank you for that. So as we go into our topic, Brittany, why don't you first share what was your first experience when you realized that sleep is so important?
Sleep impacts everything. I will say it probably at least 5 or 6 times a day I hear about, people's anxieties. I hear about their stress, and 9 times out of 10, the biggest symptom that they're having is they can't sleep. And before you and I started, we were talking about that series that Netflix is coming out with, and the important, like, sleep, and how, there's so many things and we need to live in this 24-hour world. And at the end of the day, that's just not what our bodies were made for. We weren't made to be in this 24-hour society, and the way that our internal clocks work, I mean, it proves it over and over again. And I will find 9 times out of 10, if I can fix the sleep first, it helps overall in terms of people's health, mentally and physically. So when I work with patients, it's the first thing that I work on.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Right. Yeah. And like you mentioned, yeah, but we have deadlines, we have exams. So definitely we need to work on that. But in all of that picture, the first thing that gets neglected is sleep, because it's easy to just, okay, I'll sleep less and get things done. So
Right.
and unfortunately, like you said, we have Netflix, we have social media, who are the biggest competitors of our sleep. So
Yeah.
I know if we can fix that, I know we would have so much better health.
I think I find when I explain to people how much damage they really are doing, and how much, yes, to your point of, oh, well, I have so much on my plate, I'm just going to let my sleep go now, how that rolls downhill, and how that impacts everything else. And you're right. I definitely, I will say myself, I remember being in school and being like, I'm going to show my worth of how much I care about X and YZ test that I'm taking, because I'm going to stay up all night and I'm going to cram for that test, and I'm going to drink this much caffeine, and I'm going to do all these things, because that's how I showed it, how little I took care of myself and how much output I had was a way that I showed my worth, and how much I cared about this. But, and I told you I would use my analogy that I love using with patients is, and I always tell people, I'm like, picture your favorite meal you want to make, like your favorite thing that you make in the kitchen. And it is the thing that uses every bowl and every cutting board and every knife in the kitchen. And you created a masterpiece. But then at the end of the day, at the end of the meal, last bite, you look at the kitchen and you're like, nah, I don't really feel like doing that tonight. Like I'm going to go to bed. So you come back in the morning and it's time for breakfast. And what do you find in the kitchen? Well, it's a disaster. Can you make breakfast? Can you do what you need to do with the kitchen like that? Absolutely not. You got germs everywhere. Nothing's where it's supposed to be. You can't find anything appropriately. And that's really what sleep does. So what I was doing to myself, studying for those tests all night, I wasn't allowing my brain to solidify those memories and actually work more efficiently for me. So sleep, it takes that amyloid beta, that byproduct of what you do all day and all those memories you made and all the work you've done, and it cleans it away. So you can actually work more efficiently. So that was probably the thing when I realized, and I learned that when I was in my graduate studies, that I was like, what in the world have I been doing? So it is the consistent studying, it is the consistent sleep, it is the consistent nutrition that actually helps people be more efficient overall.
Yes, absolutely. And at times we just have to learn it the hard way, because when I was asking my kids yesterday, like, okay, tell me a little bit about sleep, and what if you were to have a topic, what would that be? And both of them, they told me that I would have the topic as the real cost of an all-nighter.
Yeah.
They realized it now. Obviously, when I would have told them, they'll be like, yes, that's okay. I'll catch up on sleep over the weekend. But now they realize it. So
Never.
at times it's just, they have to experience that so that they know that, well, that is not an answer. So,
absolutely. I tell my teens and college kids, my one rule is nothing good happens after midnight. So that sleep should never happen after midnight, and trying to make sure you keep that consistency is key.
Yes, absolutely. And I love what we are speaking about, Brittany. So can you elaborate a little bit more on the science behind sleep and all things, like, let's talk about melatonin and circadian rhythm, so that our listeners know, okay, why is sleep important?
So the person who comes into me who can't sleep, the first thing that I always hear, and I know you hear this a lot too, is, I think it's my hormones. I think my hormones are out of whack. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're probably right. And then the next thing they say is like, well, can we check them? I'm like, well, we could, but there's a lot of them. And I think naturally they gravitate towards, the sex hormones, and that's what they think is impacting everything. And as you know, there's so much more than that. And one of the main ones is melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone. I think a lot of people take it and they think, oh, this is a sleeping pill. This is going to help me sleep. And I think changing the mindset from melatonin is not a sleeping pill. It is a reminder to your body and a hormone that your body makes naturally that says, this is sleep time. This is when I'm supposed to power that computer down and get that update going, so I can be more efficient for the day. The Bain clock, the big thing that delineates what our hormone levels balance from, we don't see enough throughout the day. And that's that big guy in the sky, the sun. I know I don't spend enough time outside, and that really is what controls our internal clock, or that circadian rhythm. That circadian rhythm is a rhythm of hormones that tells your body what time it's supposed to go get up, what time it's supposed to power down. And it is influenced by a lot of the artificial light that we also expose ourselves to also. So there's many factors that influence that rhythm. The rhythm is about 24 hours. You start secreting that hormone melatonin about the time that sun goes down. So about 6 p.m. And then it kind of peaks about like 9 to 10 p.m. So that's when your body starts to feel that it's sleepy per se. Now, does everyone's sleepiness set in at the same time? Absolutely not. And there's lots of factors that influence that: genetics, environmental, you name it. But if your body's exposed to a lot of artificial lights, and that's when you hear the tag words with blue light glasses and all of these things, those are the things that impair our melatonin levels from being where they're supposed to be and telling us that it's time to be sleepy. There is another hormone on the other end. It's called cortisol. And that is the hormone that tells our body that it's time to wake up in the morning. There are lots of things that influence cortisol. And I think we all know cortisol is that stress hormone, right? So if we have more stress in our lives and we have more cortisol, that's why we have impaired sleep function at night a lot. So balancing a lot of these hormones is something that is very important. I always try to tell patients, though, let's do what we can to maybe control those hormones a little bit from our inputs before chasing our tails and getting levels that I don't know are going to be beneficial to us at the point. So fixing the basics first. So I would say the science of sleep goes behind what your brain is doing. There's a couple of different cycles, and I try and kind of keep it basic, but there's a couple of different cycles. That cycle lasts, a full cycle lasts about 90 minutes. And you, an average person, needs about 5 of those cycles a night to say that we're actually getting that restful sleep. Or I know we hear a lot about non-REM and then REM sleep. That's what we're talking about. And that's what we're functioning through when we sleep. Amount of sleep, I'd say anyone needs anywhere between 7 and 9 hours. Every person's different at that point, but enough to get those 5 ranges is about 7.5 hours. So it's different as you go through different phases of your life, but I'd say anywhere between 7 and 9 hours is probably the key.
Is the key, yes. So there is no magic number, as you said, but everyone has to find their own level and just make sure they get that rest.
And I think be aware also if they're feeling rested too.
Yes, exactly. And like you said, like the cortisol and melatonin, it has a cycle, and it's the time of the day when it gets secreted on its own. So if we are mindful of that cycle and we make sure we ride that wave, that's when the sleep will come in. But if we ignore that wave, that's when insomnia and all the things begin, and we are like, okay, what just happened?
Yep. And we're still just at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we understand sleep does. But there have been many studies that have proven how important it is, from, helping to protect your DNA, to protecting against Alzheimer's, to helping you live longer. And the reason why I find it so important in weight management is reducing cravings. That's a big piece of it, reducing those cortisol levels so your body doesn't hold on to fat inappropriately as well. It protects you from cancer. It helps also signify how growth hormones are secreted in the body. It helps with pain sensitivity too. So we've learned a lot of why it's important, the whole mechanism of how it's happened. We're still learning a lot of that, but there's a lot of really good research out there. But to your point, also, there's a lot of really fun things to watch and do and work and pressures that, it's easy to figure out why people let that one go first, but they are really doing the most damage by that.
Exactly. And to add to what you said about the hormones, there are 2 hormones that I want to point out to as a nutritionist are leptin and ghrelin. So ghrelin is the hunger hormone. So the moment you deprive yourself of the sleep, it secretes more ghrelin. So it's going to make you make sure you're eating more. It's going to increase those cravings. And what sleep will also do is it will reduce the leptin. Leptin is the satiety hormone, so it will make you eat less. So it's just the opposite of what you want to do is what is going to happen with less sleep. It's going to increase ghrelin, making you more hungry. It's going to decrease ghrelin, leaving you less satiety and increasing your cravings. So it just works against you.
Absolutely.
Yes. And that is so awesome that we could share that with everyone. And now tell us about a lifestyle habit or your sleep hygiene secrets that you do every day, which and something that you swear by.
Absolutely. And I always like to, make sure when I talk about these things, like I'm human too. There's the Netflix show that gets me. There's the TikTok that gets me. I get it. However, all of those things are combating for your time and attention. And I think that I don't say don't do those things. I say have appropriate boundaries so you're in control of those things versus those things in control of you,
Exactly.
and understanding why you're doing them. I also think that self care is not selfish. So, in terms of that nighttime routine, I always tell people lean in, take care of yourself, and have that be
Mhm.
something that really kind of fills your cup too, because that quiet time can be, multifaceted in how it can contribute to your health. So, key is to go to bed at the same time every night. Your body likes routine, your hormones like routine, and setting that routine. I like to let people figure out what time is best for them. Like I said, I kind of stand by nothing good happens after midnight, but there is that person who pushes right up against midnight, and I get it. If it works for their life, that's fine. We secrete those hormones at different levels, at different phases in our life. So I think that that sleep cycle kind of shifts throughout life as well, depending on what our body needs at that time. So
Mhm.
I would say the good routine that I try and get people to stick to is what works for them, one, and then it's personalized. There is not one size fits all.
Right.
If I had to pick like a general, this is where I would start, and then we can tweak things. Same time every night, and then wake up at the same time every day. There can be a variability, I would say, within 30 minutes to 45 minutes, maybe an hour on the weekends, but
Mhm.
nothing more than that, because as we kind of talked about earlier, you never make up sleep. You can't do 4 hours, 4 hours, 4 hours, and then 20 hours. That does not let that clock work the way that it's supposed to.
Exactly.
About an hour before bedtime, turn the TVs off, turn the screens off, turn all the things off, because that exposure to that light and that stimuli is really going to set us back. And it's not allowing our brain that time to really power down and get that upgrade that it needs at night. So after turning all of those things off, making sure that you then go take a shower, take a bath, do something
Mhm.
to kind of get out of your head. But actually, there's a lot of science that shows exposing yourself to heat and then cold after actually lowers your body temperature and helps you go to sleep easier too. I always say the best sleeping pill is a really good book too. The nice like physical ones. So whether while you're doing a bath or whatever, it's got some Epsom salts in it, as magnesium is really good for sleep as well. Whether it's just a shower because you're not a bath person, that's fine, and you got some good music playing. After that, lay down, and whether it's journaling or it's reading, that's going to help your brain really power down and externally go through those things. Make sure you have a nice, cool, dark room. If anyone can make one investment, I would say it would either be good blackout curtains
Mhm.
or a really good eye mask, as that darkness does make a really big difference. I have a lot of people who sleep with the TV on. That is one of the worst things that you can do, because even in your subconscious, you're stimulating your subconscious and you're not letting your body go through those stages of sleep that it needs to. So turning that TV off. If you need noise, have it be a white noise. I think that that's completely fine as well. And then the room needs to be cold. So it needs to be a cool, dark space. It is totally fine if you have an overhead fan or the AC's down low, but that heat to cold will be a big difference as well. Also making sure that you don't eat right before you go to bed. So trying to hold off from eating at least 2 hours before bedtime. Those larger meals can have a big impact. Alcohol can have a big impact in the quality of your sleep as well. So those are just a couple of the things.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that's an awesome list of all the factors that can impact the sleep. But if it was just one tip that you would give, what would that be, Brittany?
Tip in terms of what impacts the
Improving
sleep:
and improving the sleep and improving the
improving
quality of
sleep.
sleep.
Turn the TV off. Put the phone down. Put the gadgets away. Put them away from the nightstand, and don't look at them before bed.
Yeah,
We don't need to be working in bed. We need to have the bedroom be for just two things, sleep being one of them, right?
yeah,
But we need to not have that be our office. We need to not have that be anything else. So trying to make sure that we separate those spaces as well.
Yeah.
I will say also not having caffeine after noon. If you are the person who wakes up and you could go back to bed by like 10 or 11, you're tired, or if you are the person that needs caffeine regularly through the morning and afternoon, you're probably not getting good quality sleep. And so working on a couple of those things and coming to talk to someone about it is going to be key. But more caffeine is not the answer. That's actually just stealing energy from you later.
Yes, exactly. Wow, that's awesome tips. And like Brittany said, listeners, get your phone out of your bedroom and get your laptop out of your bedroom at night, mainly. And do you recommend blue light glasses? Do you like to recommend that, Brittany?
So there's a lot of, we need blue light, right? Blue light is something that impacts
Right.
our hormones. Red light is too. So do I think that we get too much of different lights at different times? Absolutely. I would say something that I would say that helps to regulate your circadian rhythm that has to do with exposure to light would be being outside before 10 a.m. But like being out in red light, i.e. the sunlight as it's raising, that can regulate that red light more than anything. So even
Yes.
if it's having coffee on your patio in the morning before you go to work, or if it's going on a walk in the morning early, that's something that's really good. Blue light in the evening is something that we need to limit. So yes, I think blue light glasses or filters, things like that are appropriate, but does it mean that it's okay to just watch TV up until it's time to go to bed? Absolutely not. So
And
kind of answered that. Sorry.
yes, yes,
Nuance.
exactly. No, and I know at times people use that as a cheat sheet. Like, okay, I'm wearing my blue light glasses, so I can keep continue working
Yeah.
till just before bedtime. So I know it kind of we are giving the answers like, okay, wear your blue light glasses and still continue working. So no, you
Yeah.
are absolutely spot on about that. So get out in the sun in the morning will help you sleep better.
Yep.
And switch off your laptop, and if you absolutely have to, at least have blue light glasses such that it will not, but again, that's the last thing that you want. So
Yep.
I love that idea. Awesome. And so if do you measure your sleep, uh, is what I wanted to
There are lots of devices out there,
devices.
and lots of things that can help us. I think that they can be helpful.
Okay.
However, people can hyper focus on those too. And again, I think if they're used in the right way and not as justification for bad habits,
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I will say that I do think they create awareness and they create a conversation around sleep, and they help people to focus on sleep, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like to see them when they help people maybe obsess over it a little bit, or
Yeah.
if they increase anxiety. If they felt like they had a good night and such device says that you got a bad sleep score, I'm going to go based on how you feel and how much you got versus what this thing is telling us. If you're snoring excessively, if you're waking up gasping for air, reasons to go talk with someone about that, because there might be some pathological reasons that we are not getting restful sleep that need to be addressed. Waking up with headaches is another one that needs to be addressed. So if anyone's having that, that's something that I think is needs to be addressed with a healthcare provider as well. So kind of is my answer. I think they can be helpful, but I also don't like to see them create more anxiety around sleep, because it can be very stressful to not get a good night's sleep.
Yes, yes, and I've seen people like I also like to tell that if they measure it, it's just the idea of getting it measured once. That way they know what they are getting themselves
Yeah.
into. But again, I know that there is
Or
that
accountability.
very thin line where people can cross that line
Yeah.
and just get obsessed over those
Yeah.
numbers.
And I think accountability is great too. I mean, life's busy, things are busy. If there's a device that reminds me to drink water and what time it is, time to go to bed, I'm here for it. I need those
Yeah,
reminders.
right.
But if it's creating more anxiety and I'm not getting good sleep because I'm focusing on it, we might have a inappropriate relationship with that device or that method, and that's not going to work for that person.
Right, right. Absolutely. That's awesome. And so, like we discussed today, so clinically, I know you are working with obese and diabetic patients. So, what are your thoughts on how have you seen in your clinic how weight and metabolism gets impacted by sleep?
Oh, night and day. I think that it gets the ball rolling. And the reason why I start on it with people is they start to feel better. And I think once they understand what quality sleep is, they automatically, I can't think of a situation where they already hadn't lost weight by just fixing sleep. That's
Wow.
how powerful it is.
Wow.
And to you, I mean, we're not doing the right thing by not addressing these pieces and just addressing one piece of the puzzle, because at the end of the day, every person is a 1,000-piece puzzle. And by just focusing on one of those pieces, whether it be sleep or nutrition, we're not doing the whole thing justice. And so focusing on all of it, but also understanding that human psychology, we only have so much that we can take in at once. So focusing on, one thing at a time, having small measurable goals, and then moving from there, and is more effective in my experience.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for all these practical tips, because at times we know, all of us, we know that sleep is important. We need to sleep enough, but those practical pointers are what at times gets missed in the big picture. So I'm so grateful that we could talk on that and discuss that, and hopefully this message gets out there even more, such that we bring in more preventative care, we improve people's life, we improve their sleep, we improve their metabolism, and so many pointers that we discussed today. uh,
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And if we were to sum it up, Brittany, like what would your three key takeaways you would want to give our listeners, such that they abide by that?
Um, we're all human, and at the end of the day, every human needs sleep. That's not going to change. It's been proven over and over again.
Yep.
So consistency is key. We all have bad nights, and we all have nights where we don't sleep or we don't sleep enough. But I think waking up with a mentality that we're going to try again tomorrow, and we're not going to let that be justification to continue bad habits,
Yeah.
is key as well. And then again, I think the last one is probably awareness, and just helping people to be aware of what they're putting in their bodies and what they're doing to their bodies and how it impacts things overall. But sometimes I think taking it back down to the basics is the best place to start.
Yes, I love that. Back to basics.
Hey, how'd you like that?
Thank you so much, Brittany. And
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm so glad we can get this word out to our listeners. And if folks listening out there, if you have other ideas, other topics that you would want us to bring in, please chime in the comment section. And I'll see you again on another episode next week live. Uh, Keep listening and keep spreading the word. Thank you so much, Brittany.
Thank you for having me.